Chapter 1 kicks off at the absolute worst possible ending. Humanity is finished, demons are everywhere, and Ash is standing in the ashes like the last guy still refusing to fall. The chapter opens with demons carving through humanity's last stand as the city goes up in flames, and every blast of wreckage sends awakeners staggering back through the ruins. Marlon and the other defenders are already broken, while the demon kings and their monsters surge forward with no mercy, crushing the front line under their advance. By the time the dust settles, a fallen human lies at the victor's feet, and the whole battlefield feels like one giant, hopeless defeat. Boom! Crack! Ash's screen flashes the brutal verdict, game over, right as Marlon barrels in and smashes him through the flaming stone with a merciless follow-up. The impact detonates the pillar in a thunderous boom, and the heat-riddled wreckage caves around them. Even with the fight already decided, Marlon keeps pressing the attack, turning the whole battlefield into a death trap. Ash hauls himself up through the blood and wreckage, each ragged breath shaking off another fatal blow as his lightning surges back to life. Even with his body collapsing, he squares his stance like he's about to sprint straight through hell, and the chapter finally crowns him the SSS Lightning Assassin. Boom, this is the last guy standing between humanity and total ruin, and he looks more like a living storm than a wounded man. Ash's mind jumps back to the real start of the disaster. 7 years earlier, several demon kings showed up, and one of the first names thrown at us is Voralune, rising out of fire like a walking disaster. They didn't just invade either, they rolled in with full demon armies and flattened humanity like it meant nothing. Voralune's voice cuts through the battlefield as Ash braces, but the demon attack doesn't let up. Wrath surges in with a brutal rush, forcing Ash to pivot and slip the first blow. Marlon and the others can only watch as the demons press the advantage. Each hit meant less to kill than to humiliate, like Ash is nothing but bait in front of the hospital ruins. Then Voralune spits out the verdict on humanity's last hope, and the entire exchange turns vicious, the kind of insult that hits harder than any claw. Voralune erupts forward in a red tidal blast, and the battlefield gets swallowed whole as it lunges straight for Ash. Ash braces and tries to hold his ground, but the demon's power crashes over him like a wave, stripping at his strength with every step. With a savage grin, Voralune closes in and threatens to devour Ash's power itself, turning the fight into a deadly feeding frenzy. Ash is backed into a corner now, and if he can't break the surge, he'll lose everything. Ash tries to brace himself, but the demon's red energy slams into him like a collapsing wall, blowing the battlefield apart in a flash of light. Marlon lunges in through the chaos, only to get swallowed by the shockwave as lightning rips across the page. Boom! Wrath's force keeps surging, and Ash is left fighting just to stay conscious while the whole world seems to cave in around him. That pressure cracks open Ash's real wound. In one rush, he remembers his sister, his squad, his master, and then the rage finally comes out because the demons murdered every person he loved. So this fight stops being about survival and becomes revenge, plain and simple. Ash digs his heels in and detonates a violent surge of lightning, forcing the power back through his battered body as the air around him starts to scream. Voralune and the demons stare up in shock while Ash snarls that he's dragging them to hell, then he snaps into his SSS ultimate skill, Apocalyptic Arc. The sky fractures with blinding energy as the spell blooms overhead, turning his final stand into a full-force counterattack. BRRZZT, boom! Ash unleashes Apocalyptic Arc, and the instant it fires, the whole battlefield snaps white as lightning lances out and locks Voralune in place. Voralune strains to move, but the blast keeps chaining through the air in a furious web of gold and white, shredding everything in its path. At the center of the storm, Ash's infinity emblem burns into view like a seal of absolute power. Then the impact slams down with a thunderous boom, and the battlefield disappears into light and flying debris. But inside all that light, Ash's head goes somewhere quieter and way sadder. He sees broken flashes of the people he couldn't save, remembers his parents, and finally admits the thing that has been eating him alive this whole time: he wasn't strong enough. For Ash, the end of the world feels personal because he thinks it was his failure too. Ash is collapsing under the final blow, his body already fading as the light closes in around him, and all he can think about is how every missed step led here. If he had grown stronger sooner, if he had found the dungeon before the demon kings spread their chaos, if he had crushed the first demon king before the world split open, maybe Marlon, Wrath, Voralune, and even Ash's sister would still have a future. Instead, he reaches for one impossible answer with his last breath. Boom, the universe cracks, and Ash is granted the one thing no dying man should ever get, a chance to go back and rewrite the beginning. Ash C pushes Marlon Ma's pressure to the limit, then unleashes his final strike as wrath surges through him and the whole battlefield detonates in a city-sized flash. The blast swallows the hospital, the National Awakener University, and everything around Voralune as buildings peel apart and vanish in the glare. Boom. Even as Ash tries to hold onto Ash's sister, the light keeps surging until his last thought is the same one tearing through his chest: he lost everything. After all that screaming light, the next thing we get is silence. A dark room slowly comes into focus, and there on a simple bed is a young man resting like he just survived the weirdest nightmare of all time. The impossible part hits immediately: Ash is alive. Ash slowly sits up with bandages still on him and tries to understand the room around him. There are doors, a desk, sunlight, normal walls, all the boring stuff that should not exist after the apocalypse. So naturally, his first thought is pure panic: if he is alive, where in the world did he wake up? Once Ash looks outside, the shock gets even bigger. People are walking around like the world never ended, campus life is going on like normal, and the hospital is still standing. After staring at all that for a while, Ash finally lands on the insane truth: he somehow went back 10 years to college. Just when Ash thinks the time travel part is enough to deal with, a weird signal starts buzzing in his face. Then a clean system message appears and says Gluttony power fusion is complete. So now Ash isn't just back in time, he's back with some kind of game-like power system attached to him. The chapter locks the timeline down right after that. Ash is back before everything went to disaster, and the phone date confirms it: May 16, 2157. That means he didn't just get a second chance in general, he came back to the exact day things started to matter. Ash's mind slams through the future in brutal flashes. 3 years from now, Wrath marches in first, and with a single eruption of power he tears open the gates of hell. Boom. The breach becomes a killing road as the other demon kings flood through behind him, one after another, until the world is swallowed whole. That's the nightmare Ash has to stop at the source, because Wrath is the first domino to fall. The memory of Wrath slams into Ash C like a crushing blow, and all at once the future comes roaring back: demons burning through the streets, the hospital drowning in chaos, his sister lost in the ruin. Ash clenches his fist, gluttony power surging through him in a violent pulse as he swears he will break the chain before Wrath can ignite the collapse. Boom, his resolve hits harder than the nightmare itself, and this time Ash doesn't run from the end of the world, he charges straight at it. Ash C jerks to a stop and snaps his attention to the hovering gluttony power screen as if it just struck him in the face. The status window flares open with his name, his level, and stat after stat slammed at 100, hitting like a brutal truth bomb with no room to dodge. Ash stares at the absurd readout, and even with no clue where this interface came from, he instantly knows this thing is anything but normal. It's not just weird, it's overpowered. Ash starts putting the pieces together by comparing this to his old life. Back then he only fought with his awakened ability, and now the system is laying out classes and ranks in front of him while reminding us that awakeners are incredibly rare. That's why National Awakener University matters so much, it's packed with the people most likely to develop power at all. And this is where the chapter makes Ash's comeback feel even crazier. In his last life, he never awakened at National Awakener University, stayed weak for all 4 years, and basically lived as the campus punching bag. So the guy standing here now isn't just back in time, he's back at the worst version of his own life. Ash C stares down the flickering system as the display spasms, then snaps into a blazing class card: Lightning Assassin. The screen hammers out skills like Flash God and Electric Blade while electric arcs crack across the panel, each readout promising absurd speed, lethal cuts, and paralysis on contact. Ash doesn't move, but the power on that card feels like it's already lunging at him, a future monster's path laid bare in front of his eyes. The moment Ash C spots that class card, his instincts slam into overdrive as energy surges through his body, like his old power is trying to claw its way back from the future. He locks onto the familiar class layout around him, then feels the system's label hit him with that eerie new term: pre-awaken. In one sharp beat, Ash realizes the rules may already be bending around him. Ash C stops hesitating and slams into the new system setup, loading the menu as class switch energy surges through his body. The moment he confirms the change, electricity snaps across his frame and crawls over his arms like it's testing his limits. Boom, the power finishes locking in, and Ash plants himself like a fighter ready to see exactly what this build can do. The testing room gets torn open as Marlon Ma barrels in, skidding straight to Ash's bedside before grabbing him by the shoulders and blurting out that he's awake. As an E-rank cloud chanter, Marlon was clearly expecting a rough recovery, but when he sees Ash's wounds sealing at impossible speed, his panic spikes into full-blown confusion, like the healing itself just hit him with a sudden crack. Ash barely hears the chaos, because the instant Marlon's face comes into view, all he can think is that his dead roommate is standing right there, alive. Ash freezes the moment he locks eyes with Marlon Ma, and the whole world seems to snag on that single breath, boom. In the old timeline, Marlon Ma was already dead by day 3, torn out of the opening chaos before Ash could even process the invasion, but now Marlon is right there, alive, talking, joking, and standing close enough to hit back if he wanted. Ash's gluttony power doesn't flare, no dodge comes, no strike lands, just that brutal realization crashing through him as the rewind stops feeling like a dream and starts feeling like a second life. For the first time, Ash really understands that he came back. Marlon snaps Ash back to reality with a hard, no-nonsense shove, then points straight at the clock like it's a death sentence. Rank assessment is tomorrow. ASH barely finishes processing the blow before Marlon is already dragging him out, all student urgency and zero patience, forcing him to move. Even after everything Ash just heard, Marlon keeps pressing forward, treating this exam like the one thing that can't be dodged. It's absurd, but it's exactly the kind of momentum that yanks Ash from cosmic chaos into immediate survival mode. Ash steps out with Marlon Ma and the whole campus is drenched in sunset, students moving through the National Awakener University grounds like nothing in the world is wrong. Marlon keeps edging away from the open field, tugging the pace back, while Ash just watches every ordinary laugh and passing shadow like he's seeing a life he almost lost forever. After everything he's seen in the Wrath, the Demon Kings, the hospitals full of broken awakeners, this quiet walk hits harder than any blow, because now even a normal second feels like it could shatter. Seeing all these living people just makes Ash more urgent, not less. He knows that if he sits around doing nothing, the nightmare future comes right back, so he decides he needs power now, and in this world that means one thing, killing monsters in dungeons. Ash doesn't have time to be sentimental for long. Ash takes one look at the world's power ladder and realizes the big guilds have already locked down the dungeons, leaving National Awakener University students to scrape for scraps at the bottom. The rankings run from S to E, and while most Awakeners stall out in E rank, only a rare few ever claw their way up to D. As Ash compares his fresh stats to the campus crowd, he can already feel it, his ceiling isn't normal, it's explosive. Boom! Just as Ash is measuring his place at National Awakener University, the tension shatters in an instant. A vicious blow rips across the panel with a raw boom, blasting the glasses-wearing student off his feet and into the floor before he can even brace himself. The hit lands so hard it wipes out any chance to dodge or recover, and the whole campus vibe snaps back to the ugly brutality Ash knows too well. For a second, it feels less like school and more like the old world all over again. Ash and Marlon step onto the stairs, and the whole pack of upperclassmen snaps their attention to them, the bald leader leaning forward with a nasty grin as he throws out, "Yo, if it isn't Ash and Marlon." Marlon freezes for a split second while Ash locks in, the air between them tightening like a blade being drawn, and the white-haired thug stays back with his arms folded, silently backing the ambush. Then the bald guy starts clowning them for healing too fast, turning the whole reunion into a knife-edge face-off right on the steps. The power dynamic shows up instantly after that. The bald upperclassman whines about drinks, and Marlon panics so fast that he starts apologizing before anyone even touches him. You can tell this is normal for Marlon, which makes the scene more pathetic and more infuriating at the same time. But this time Ash does something the old Ash probably never would. He stops Marlon, says Marlon isn't the one who screwed up, and calmly puts the blame where it belongs, on the guys acting like trash. It's a small line on paper, but in context it feels huge because Ash has officially stopped playing victim. And then the chapter just stops on that tension. No comeback yet, no punchline, no release, just a clean pause after Ash draws the line. It is the kind of ending that says the real trouble starts next. So chapter 1 ends with Ash alive, back in the past, loaded with a strange new system, and already changing the script. He has a chance to save Marlon, stop Wrath, and maybe rewrite the apocalypse itself, but first he has to deal with the low-level trash right in front of him.